spend the weekend studying the Bible? That doesn't sound like an exciting time for most teenagers, but youth came from Episcopal churches all over the Chicago area to do just that. To find out what drew them, let's welcome Natalie Green, youth minister at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church in Oak Park, and Hannah Hill, a high school junior from St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church in Lockport, and Kyle Daler, an 8th grader from the Church of the St. John the Evangelist in Flossmoor. And Natalie, tell us a little bit about this weekend, what it's all about.
So Miqra is a word that means public reading of the Bible. And it's basically an event that invites youth from our diocese to come and learn more about the Bible and build community with each other.
So how many youth come, and is it all weekend, and what's the schedule like?
Well, it kind of varies by the year. They can tell you a little bit more about last year, but this year it was just one overnight, and we stayed at St. James Cathedral, which is right down here in the Loop. And it's basically constant reading of the Bible in the cathedral, and then some formation activities and workshops that go on during that.
Hannah, what drew you to this? How do you tell your friends you're going for the weekend to read the Bible?
Well, when I tell my friends, they're like, "What? You're crazy." But they know that I'm like really involved in my church, and pretty much any youth activity I want to be a part of because I know it's going to be fun. I've never been to a youth activity that I didn't enjoy. So when I first heard about Miqra, I thought, well, maybe this will be the one that won't quite do it for me, but I was completely wrong, and I've done it 3 years in a row, so it's great every time.
You keep coming back.
Yep, every year.
And Kyle, what drew you to this event?
They said that they were live streaming a Bible reading for 48 straight hours throughout the night, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I was like, why not? They said we could join it.
And what was challenging or the most fun about it?
Well, I mean, I did have to get up at 3 in the morning my first year to go read the Bible for half an hour, and in the moment that doesn't sound very appealing, but it really is. Afterwards, there's no real challenge to it.
Hannah, what was the most rewarding part for you?
Really for me, I think like when you read the Bible out loud, you just gain such a better understanding of it and sort of more of a comprehension, and you can go at your own pace, and it's not like you're reading in church in front of the congregation and you have to get it done in time. You can really take your time to understand it and think about it and reflect and learn take everything that you can from it.
And Natalie, there were small groups, right? So that the youth could take some time to reflect. What were those like?
So we had some small group time basically to help everyone kind of get to know kids from other churches, because sometimes, we're in our individual churches and we don't really get to meet other people. So a lot of it was community building across churches. And then we also talked about the different Bible readings. We had a couple of priests come and kind of present information about the Bible and different theologies. So it kind of gave the kids a chance to process what they were learning, and then to take some time and just kind of rest between everything else.
I would imagine not many teenagers are reading the Bible. Why do they need to do this, and why do you encourage them to do this weekend or come to this weekend?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the Bible is a very complicated and strange book in some ways, as I'm sure these people could tell you. And life is also complicated and strange, and the Bible has a lot of powerful stories that can help us make it through life. So I think it's an important book to understand, and it's an important book for young people to be familiar with.
And Kyle, what was your favorite part of reading the Bible, or do you have some favorite parts of the Bible?
Getting up at 3 a.m. to read random parts of the Bible is always fun. We didn't get to do that this year because they switched it to not reading at night and only reading for like 2 days. And you can just end up reading, the New Testament, Old Testament, any random story, and it might be your favorite, and it might be random, you never heard of it before, and then you like it a lot and you read it again.
So you get to sign up for a time slot, is that how it works?
We had this chart that had different time slots, and you could sign up with, you're just yourself, more than one person, like a group of 3, and just all take different sections of that time slot.
So after this weekend, do you still go back to the Bible?
Yeah. I ended up quoting it in an argument one time because my friend didn't know what he was talking about, and I had to bring that back that I learned from this weekend. And I've come back to it every year after doing this, at least 4 times a month.
That's great. And Hannah, what was your favorite part of reading the Bible, or do you have favorite sections of the Bible, old, new?
Well, I like a lot of the stories that we get from the Old Testament. One of my personal favorites is actually one that I didn't know about until last year when I did my turn for the reading, which is the book of Esther. And I just love, the empowerment, that you get from it. And, women can be strong too, which is not something that you always see in the Bible. So yeah, I like to go back and read that book a lot because it's just so interesting. It's more of a story really than a passage from the Bible.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle, how was it reading it out loud to you? Was that more of a challenge, or would you rather be reading it on your own?
Most of the time I read things in my head and I can just zoom through everything, and when I read out loud I kind of had to slow down so that everyone would be able to hear what you were saying. But it's not as challenging as, say, reading it all on your own as fast as you can to get through the 48 hours. Doing the little times is easier.
I would imagine it was pretty challenging. I did a Bible study and we spent a whole year reading the whole Bible. So how can you tell youth that you're going to be reading the whole Bible in a weekend and still come away with some comprehension? Natalie, how do you explain them to how they should be interpreting the Bible?
Sure. So we actually had a priest come and talk to us about how to read the Bible and why to read the Bible. We, in the past, have read the whole Bible, Old and New Testament, because we had a little bit more time. This year we only had about 1.5 days, so we only read the New Testament. Typically, from my experience, it's kind of the last hour and you have 8 people reading at once and it gets a little noisy, so that can be fun. Really what we try to emphasize is that it's okay to have questions about the Bible. It's okay to feel like you don't understand what it's trying to say or even disagree with it. And just trying to have an open mind about it, not necessarily taking every single word literally, but being open to the meaning of the stories.
And so Hannah, when you tell your friends about this weekend, or how would you encourage youth to come join this next year?
Well, I would tell people that, it's always, try something new. You never know what you're going to get out of it. And I found that most people who do go to Miqra end up going in thinking that they're not going to like it. And, oh, I can't believe my friend dragged me here. But they come away saying, that was really a good time. And I learned a lot. So you sort of got to tell people what they're going to learn. Oh, you got all these new opportunities to sort of drag them in.
Thank you, Natalie, Hannah, and Kyle for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm Anne Marie Gerhardt for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.